Okay, starting Antigone. You had to have printed off this in the PDF that I posted on D2L or was included on the syllabus. Now remember, as I said when we started Sophocles, in terms of how Oedipus wrote them, Antigone comes first, then Oedipus the king, then Oedipus at Colonus. But in terms of the action of the plays, Antigone is the second play. Antigone is one of the name Antigone is one of the two daughters that we see briefly at the end of Oedipus the King. One quick comment. I've not graded the exams yet. I'm going to do that today. I started one, finished one yesterday because I go through each one. I'll probably send out a comment. I might send out a comment to everybody afterwards. I did with my first class because 4 people had somewhere between 2 and 4 oddly similar wrong answers, as in wrong answers spelled exactly the same way. 2 people had the exact same 4, exact same 4 wrong answers. Kind of hard to explain that by coincidence. So if that happens, I'll send out a general email and we'll let the others know. But I'll get those graded and I'll probably send you individual, rather than you having to email me, send you an email that just lets you know how you did on it, okay? So, play begins. We've got our main characters. Antigone is Mane, who's Antigone's sister. Chorus, obviously. Creon, king of Thebes, okay? Same Creon that we had in the previous play, okay? He was, in that play, he was Oedipus's uncle / brother-in-law. We have a sentry, we have Antigone's son, Haman, okay? Tiresias also, a messenger, and then we have Creon's wife, Eurydice, is how her name is usually pronounced, okay? Now, if you remember, in Oedipus, especially towards the end of the play, throughout that play, Creon comes across as pretty level-headed and straightforward. He's the one who suggests bringing in Tiresias, finding out, what Tiresias knows, etc. He's the one who kind of suggests going to the oracle at Delphi, finding out what the oracle says. Nowhere in that play does Creon come across as hard-headed, stubborn, rash, any of those things. Okay? So, play opens. Notice the little direction at the beginning. The royal house of Thebes, so the setting is still the palace in the background. Royal house of Thebes, it's night. The invading armies of Argos have just been driven from the city. Argos is an area of Greece, all right? Fighting on opposite sides, the sons of Oedipus, Eteocles and Polynices, have killed each other in combat. Their uncle Creon is now king of Thebes. Antigone comes in. Now, a little bit more background. So the 2 brothers fight each other and kill each other. One of them is fighting, defending Thebes. That's Eteocles. And his brother, Polynices, is fighting, attacking Thebes for one simple reason. Take a guess as to the reason. Why would he attack it? His brother is king. He wants to be king. He wants to rule, okay? That is why Creon is now king. No other sons of Oedipus survive. So the kingship passes to the next male relative, all right, which is Creon. So, scene opens. Antigone comes in. She comes out of the doors of the palace. She motions to her sister, who follows her. my own flesh and blood, dear sister, dear Ismene, how many griefs our father Oedipus handed down. Right? I mean, because they have to go around all their lives hearing about their father's incest and how their father is their brother. All right? Do you know one, I ask you, one grief that Zeus will not perfect for the two of us? What does it mean to perfect something? Or to make it perfect? Zeus is going to do what for grief for us? He's going to stretch it out to its highest, fullest potential. In other words, we're going to suffer grief like no one has ever suffered grief before. Okay? Except for maybe dear old dad. Because Oedipus is still alive at this point. Pretty sure. So, she says, that Zeus will not perfect for the two of us while we still live and breathe. There's nothing, no pain. Our lives are pain. Remember the ending of the previous play. Count no man happy till he dies, free of pain at last. There's nothing, no pain. Our lives are pain. No private shame, no public disgrace. Nothing I haven't seen in your griefs and mine. And now this what? What she's going to mention next, she's saying it's just another pain added on top of all of our pains. They say the commander has just now declared for all of Thebes this emergency decree. Haven't you heard? Don't you see? The doom reserved for enemies marches on the ones we love the most. Okay? And you've got a gloss down at the bottom. Seems to refer to the fact Crayon had also exposed the corpses of the other 6 attackers of the city. It's based on a play called 7 Against Thebes. Okay? I haven't heard a word. What are you talking about, Antigone? Nothing of loved ones, no joy or pain has come my way, not since the two of us were robbed of our 2 brothers. It's like, what more pain can we have? Both, gone in a day. I don't know anything else. So that's why I brought you out here. What's the matter? Speak. Our own brother's burial. Hasn't Crayon graced one with all the rights, disgraced the other? So, she's going to tell us in this 20-line speech or so, Crayon has declared Eteocles gets full military honors. Okay? Polynices gets left to rot. Eteocles died as a hero defending the city. Polynices died as a traitor attacking the city. Okay? Citywide proclamation, she says, line 32. Rumor has it forbids anyone to bury him, even mourn him. So the proclamation forbids not just burying, but merely mourning, crying over his death. He's to be left unwept, unburied, a lovely treasure for birds that scan the field and feast to their heart's content. Thus is the law of our good Crayon. She means good there sarcastically. Lays down for you and me. The law he lays down for you and me. Yes, me, I tell you. And he's coming here to alert the uninformed in no uncertain terms. In other words, Crayon is in the palace. He's getting ready to come out to alert the entire city. Whoever disobeys in the least will die. His doom is sealed. That's it. That's the law. 44. You'll soon show what you are, worth your breeding, Ismene, or a coward. You're going to have to do something. You're either going to prove you're worth your breeding. Probably not a good choice of words, by the way, because, the family screwed up. And we didn't even talk about the history of, some families in ancient Greece, and this is one of them. I mean, there's bad stuff that goes back generations. Ismene says, My poor sister, if things have come to this, who am I to make or amend them? How can I, she says, alter this law? What good am I? Well, you have to make a decision. Will you share the labor, share the work? Will you help me, what? Bury our brother, Polynices. What do you mean? Will you lift up this body, his body, with these bare hands and lower it with me? Do you bury him when the law forbids the city? And she introduces probably the major theme of the play, or at least a major theme. Yes, he's my brother. Deny it as you will, he's your brother too. No one will ever convict me for a traitor. In other words, she says, yes, I'm going to do this, and there will be a trial, and no jury will convict. So desperate. And yet, Crayon, she goes, no, never mind, forget it. Antigone, he has no right to keep me from my own. King's decree versus the individual right. So, as Manny says, Antigone, calm down. Think about this for a minute. Think how our father died. Sorry, this is, dude, I was thinking that was wrong. 1, 2, Oedipus at Colonus is the middle plate. He's already died by this one. Think how our own father died, hated, his reputation in ruins, driven on by the crimes he brought to light himself, gouged us, blah, blah, blah. Now look at us, left so alone. Think what a death we'll die. Why? No one to defend us. The worst of all, if we violate the laws and override the fixed decree of the throne, its power, we must be sensible. Next half line. Remember, we are women. We're not born to contend with men. What rights, responsibilities, all that kind of stuff did women have in ancient Greece? 0. They didn't count as persons. Literally, they did not count as persons. Okay? We're not born to contend with men. Then, 2, we're underlings. That is, we don't rule. Ruled by much stronger hands, so we must submit in this. And things still worse. She's probably talking about sex and or rape. Okay? Men were allowed to do what they wanted in ancient Greece. She says, me, I'll beg the dead to forgive me. That's what I'll do. When I die, I'll go to my dead brother and say, Polynices, what could I do? I'm just a woman. I'm forced, I have no choice, I must obey. The ones who stand in power. Why rush to extremes? Why go completely to the opposite end against the law? And take it, no, it's okay. I want it, nope, even if you have a change of heart, you can't take it back now. I wouldn't welcome you in the labor. Do as you like, whatever suits you best. I'll bury myself. And if I die in the act, what? Introduces another theme. That death will be a glory. So, what motivates the character Antigone? Is it doing what's right? Or is it self-glory? Because notice, those two can't really go together. If I die in the act, that death will be a glory. I will lie with the one I love and loved by him, and outrage sacred to the gods. What does she mean, I'll lie with the one I love and loved by him? Now, with the family history, kind of sounds incestuous. She means in death. I will lie in death with Polynices. And what she means there is, and there will be a closeness, nothing sexual. There is no incestuous stuff in this line. Okay? An outrage sacred to the gods. That's not her lying with her brother in death. What's the outrage sacred to the gods? Earthly law versus the gods. She's saying what is an outlaw to the gods, or an outrage to the gods, is the law passed by Creon, that Polynices should not receive a proper burial. I have longer to please the dead than please the living here. No, it's a short, simple, declarative statement that is entirely true. Because when you're dead, how long are you dead? Unendingly. How long are you alive? If you're lucky, 70, 80 years. If you're like the world record holder in the marathon who was hoping to break a 2-hour marathon, he was hit by a car the other day, 24 years old. Used to run marathons. So, she says, I have longer to please the dead than please the living here. In the kingdom down below, I'll lie forever. Dishonor the laws the gods hold in honor. So we're not even 100 lines into the poem, into the play, and we've got a whole bunch of issues. You know, earthly law versus the gods, the law of the state versus the individual, the king's decree versus what is right, men versus women, or men's power control versus, women and such. There's many. I would do them no dishonor. I would do them no dishonor, but defy the city? I don't mean any offense to the gods, she says, but to go against the president, I mean, no, you have your excuses, she says. I'll raise a mound for him. Now, when she talks about burying her brother, she doesn't mean 6-foot hole, casket, the whole 9 yards. All that was required was sprinkling some dust and saying some prayers. Body doesn't have to be where you cannot see it. Antigone, you're rash. One of those qualities that we saw in Oedipus. Okay? What's it mean to be rash? You act without thinking. You respond without thinking. Don't fear for me. You take care of your own life. Don't tell anyone. Keep it a secret. Dear God, shout it from the rooftops. I'll hate you all the more for silence. Tell the world why. Historical example, why did John Hancock, according to the anecdote, when he signed the Declaration of Independence right there in the middle of the bottom of the sheet, why did he sign it with great big letters? Anybody know? Because George III was supposed to have bad eyesight. And Hancock supposedly said something like, I will sign it with big letters so that George knows I did it. Okay? She's saying, no, I want everybody to know I did this. What has more effect? Somebody writes a letter, to the Washington Post or New York Times or something. They say they work for the government, and I'm going to spill some beans about something, some major, issue. But I do it anonymously. Versus someone who says, I know something bad that's going on, and I'm going to become a whistleblower and go on air. The person who doesn't do it anonymously has a lot more credibility. Why? Because you can hide behind anonymity. Everybody can put on a mask, minister's black veil. You take the veil off, you take the mask off, and people go, wow, this person was willing to do what? What were those signers of the Declaration saying? Their final sentence. They pledged their lives, their fortune, their sacred honor, and they each signed it. What did that become for them? Death warrant. That became cause for their deaths right there. Because what did they just announce? Treason against the crown. Okay? So, she says, no, don't keep it secret. Let everyone know. So fiery, it ought to chill your heart. She says, I know I please where I must please the most. What does she mean? I know I please. That is, I am pleasing those whom I must please the most. She's saying, I'm responding to the God's call or to the God's laws. Okay? She says, you're in love with impossibility. What does it mean? You're in love with impossibility. You're in love with attempting to do that which cannot be done. It'd be like if I started to train to run again after knee replacement surgery. I can't run. It'd be even more like I started to train for the Boston Marathon. Ain't gonna happen. It's an impossibility. Antigone, okay, once my strength gives out, I'll be done at last. In other words, but I'm going to try, is meaning. Her point is, you need to try. You're wrong from the start. You're off on a hopeless quest. If you say so, you will make me hate you. If that's what you really think, and by all rights will haunt you, and the hatred of the dead by all rights will haunt you day and night. Leave me to my own absurdity, leave me to suffer this dreadful thing. I will suffer nothing as great as death without glory. How does she want to die? What does she want upon her death? Glory. Does she want it down below with the dead? No, she wants her fame to be told. She wants her reputation to be told. Okay? So that's an important theme within the play. Are her actions pure, doing what's right, or are they motivated more by that? Okay? So, chorus comes out. And notice what the chorus first talks about. Glory. Glory. Great beam of the sun. So, glory is light, etc., etc. And they talk about the man of pain. They talk about the battle to defend Thebes and such. Talk about Zeus. Hating with a vengeance, line 140, all bravado. Desire for glory. Zeus crashed down to earth, etc., and now there's victory. What's the chorus talking about? The state has been through troubles. Okay? The state has been through chaos. It's been like a ship on a tempestuous sea. Now it's calm. We're told, 164. But now for victory, glorious in the morning, joy in her eyes to meet our joy. She's winging down to Thebes, etc., etc. Creon comes in, attended by his guard. Guard probably doesn't mean one person. It probably means his, to use a modern analogy, his Secret Service protection. A group of men lined on either side. But look, the king of the realm is coming. Creon, the new man for the new day. In other words, the old days are gone. This is a new Thebes, new kind of ruler. Whatever the gods are sending now, what new plan will he launch? That is, what new plan will Creon launch to benefit the city and such? Why this special, what's going on? Notice the chorus doesn't know why Creon has called them to the palace. My countrymen, the ship of state is safe. This is what pretty much every president says in their first inaugural address. Because they all say, we've gone through some bad times, but now we're on a new track. We're going to see brighter days ahead. The ship of state is safe. The gods who rocked her, notice, not men. The problems the ship of state had were from the gods. After a long, merciless pounding in the storm, have righted her once more, and the gods have brought stillness and peace to the city. What's being said about the gods, essentially? They use us as playthings. We're like a boy's toy soldiers. Knock them down, pick them up, knock them down. Out of the whole city, I've called you here alone. Well, I know. First, your undeviating respect for the throne and royal power of King Laius. You guys respected Laius, you respect the throne. Cool. While Oedipus steered the land, even after he died, your loyalty was unshakable. You still stood by their children. You got a footnote, the children of Oedipus and Jocasta. Now then, since the two sons are dead, two blows of fate in the same day, cut down by each other's hands, both killers, both brothers, stained with blood, as I am next in kin to the dead, I now, what? Look at the language he uses. He doesn't say, I am king. I now possess the throne and all its powers. What do you think the media, whatever you think of the media, what do you think the media in the United States, both left and right, would do if, I won't use a current or one running, if a future president said, I now possess the presidency and all its powers? That person would be ripped to shreds in the media. Because the media would be saying, you don't possess anything. You are a mere caretaker of that office. Okay? So I possess the throne. Remember when Oedipus said, I must rule the city, my city? And Creon said, mine too. Equating himself as a citizen of, an equal citizen of the city. So, 194. Creon. Of course, you cannot know a man completely, his character, his principles, sense of judgment, not till he's shown his colors, ruling the people, making laws. True or false? Is that a false statement? Henry, before anybody answers, again, so you can take it back. When people run for president, men or women, doesn't matter, they run on the basis of two things. What two things? What they've done and what they say they're going to do. In the history of the United States, the majority of those who have been elected president held an important previous job. Okay? Anybody know what it was? Governor. More governors have been elected president than senators. A lot of senators have run for president. Why would people elect a governor more than a senator? What's the difference in job? The governor is the highest elected political office of a state. CEO. The governor runs things. It's an executive job. The governor is in charge, and to use Harry Truman's aphorism, the buck stops here. If there's blame to be had, ultimately it stops with the person in charge. Senators, they don't run anything. I mean, their offices mainly, but they have office managers who do that. What are senators primarily known for? Being members of what's called the greatest deliberative body in the world. What does that mean? They sit around a bunch of chairs and talk. They don't do anything. Governors do. Okay? Why is that important? What did Creon just say? Look at those lines again. You cannot know a man completely, his character, his principles, his sense of judgment, until what? Until he's shown his colors, ruling the people, making laws. Okay? Has Crayon, up until this point, ever ruled the people and made laws? No. He's what when it comes to being a ruler? He is a blank slate. Okay? Which is why, little political side thing here, which is why it was such an unordinary, extraordinary thing that Trump won in 2016. He'd been a CEO of a business, never in politics. And who did he defeat? Hillary Clinton. Married to the president for 8 years. Married a lot longer than that, but first lady for 8 years. Senator for 8 years. Secretary of State, that's an executive position. Got a whole big edifice of bureaucrats working for you. Tons of experience, right? And here comes Trump with no political experience, and he waltzes right in seemingly, okay? Experience, there's the test. What kind of experience does he have? Again, none. See, his words are very true. He thinks they apply to him. They don't. It's tragic or dramatic irony. Experience, there's the test. As I see it, whoever assumes the awesome task of setting the city's course and refuses to adopt the soundest policies, but fearing someone keeps his lips locked tight, he's utterly worthless. Okay? What does he mean by fearing someone? Again, think of modern presidential elections. You have this candidate who goes to this group over here, and this is the group that supports whatever, being nice to kittens. And he talks about being nice to kittens. And this group supports beheading kittens. And he speaks nice to this group. All kittens should be beheaded. What's that person doing? He's pandering to different groups. He's saying one thing to one group, something the opposite to another group. He is not doing what he suggests here. Why? Because he fears if he turns anybody in this group off, they won't what? Respect him, support him. If we're talking about politics, they won't elect him. Okay? So I rate him now. I always have. Whoever places a friend above the good of his own country, he is nothing. What's the number one problem for corruption in terms of governments literally around the world? When somebody does something for a friend or a family member. I have no use for him. Zeus is my witness. Zeus sees all things. Okay? So he's just given a theoretical basis for what kind of king he's going to be. We don't know what kind of king he's going to be because he hasn't been king for more than a couple of hours, seemingly. I could never stand by silent watching destruction march against our city, putting safety to rout, nor could I ever make that man a friend of mine who menaces our country. Remember, our country is our safety, right? Most people would agree with that. Only while she voyages true on course can we establish friendships. Those and his standards are what make the city great. So he says, akin to these, I proclaim just now the following decree. Here's the decree. Notice it's got multiple parts. The first part, Eteocles, who died defending Thebes, he will be honored. He will be buried. He will be crowned with a hero's honors. That's why I put full military honors. If he were a United States serviceman, he'd be buried in Arlington National Cemetery. Okay? That's the first part. Second part of the decree. For Polynices, who returned from exile, home to his father's city and the gods of his race, consumed with one desire, to burn them from roof to roots to the ground. A proclamation has forbidden the city to dignify him with burial, mourn him at all. So, Eteocles, will be buried and praised with full military honors. Polynices will not be buried or even mourned. No, he must be left unburied, his corpse carrion for the birds and dogs to tear. His body's going to be left out in the public square until all that's left is bones. Okay? Now, little background information. Not to do with this play, but Greek belief, ancient Greek belief. And we see this in Homer's Iliad. Ancient Greek belief, ancient Greek custom was when someone dies, you bury that body for one reason, so that the soul that inhabited that body will be able to go to rest. Go to rest means go to Hades. Okay? Hades is not the modern conception or idea of hell. Hades is just the place of the dead. And it's not where, you're no longer conscious. Everybody who dies goes, shut up, go away, goes there. Okay? It's just a place of big, great sorrow, of great sighing. It's like Murfreesboro usually is in February. Gray, dreary, cold, and you just kind of go all day long. There's no joy at all. Okay? So, you bury people so that that soul can go and be at peace. You don't bury them, that soul cannot be at rest. The great example of this is in Homer's The Iliad, where Achilles kills the warrior-like son of the king of Troy. That guy is named, the one he kills is named Hector. But he doesn't only kill Hector. See, Hector killed Achilles' servant, friend, lover, named Patroclus. Okay? His shield bearer, man, etc. Killed him in battle. Patroclus thought he could take down Hector. Hector had never been defeated. Hector kills him. Achilles gets really, really angry. Bear in mind, Achilles is part god, right? His mother was a goddess. Achilles kills Hector, and then he ties his body by a rope to the back of his chariot, and he drags him around and around the battlefield. Well, what happens? You drag a body after a car. It's happened a few times in the last 20 or 30 years in the United States. People have been murdered this way. Okay? The body starts to fall apart and pieces fall off. During the middle of one night when Achilles is sleeping or getting ready to sleep, the king of Troy, Priam, secretly comes to Achilles' camp and begs for his son's body to be allowed to be buried. And he appeals to, essentially, Achilles' humanity and compassion, and they both end up in great tears, and in the morning, Achilles allows for the parts of Hector to be gathered and to be buried. Okay? Why? Because the gods, Priam says, the gods demanded. By not allowing Hector to be buried, you are going against the will of the gods. Okay? What's Creon doing? Knowing that, okay, and that's what Antigone has already alluded to. He's going against the will of the gods. These are my principles. Never at my hands will the traitor be honored above the patriot. Whoever proves his loyalty to the state, I'll prize that man in death as well as life. And the leader is like, well, okay, if that's what you want to do, Creon, treating the enemy and the friend this way, power's yours, I suppose. What's the leader doing in this language? That's what you want to do, you go right ahead. And it's like the leader of the chorus and all the people of Thebes, metaphorically, are backing off. Why? Because it's like lightning's going to strike. If you're going to go against the will of the gods this way, To enforce it with the law, the power is yours, I suppose, to enforce it with the laws, both for the dead and for all of us, the living. Follow my orders. No, not us. We're too old. Lay that burden on young men. He goes, no, I don't mean the body. I posted guards. Then what do you want for us to do? Don't side with those who break my orders. Now, what is he really asking for? Loyalty. Always side with me. What is that a mark of? What does that indicate on Crayon's part? Little dictator in training. That's what every tyrant says. Every dictator says. Okay? Only a fool could be in love with death. In other words, the leader is saying, well, we know what it means to go against you. That would be automatic death. Death is the price. But all too often, the mere hope of money has ruined many men. What idea does he introduce? In fact, it's an idea we saw in Oedipus the King, that Oedipus brought up. When Tiresias says, you are the corruption of the land, what does Oedipus immediately call Tiresias' gift of prophecy? Trade. Well, you do this for money. Someone pays you and you prophesy something, he implies, beneficial to that person. Somebody else pays you something and you prophesy something beneficial to that person. Okay? He introduces money into that equation. So Crayon now says, you're right, it will be death, but what? Money has caused people to do things they wouldn't ordinarily do. You slip them enough, and they'll go against their own principles. Okay? Sentry comes in. And what do we have? The beginning of the complication. Because we find out, Sentry says, I'm just a reporter. I'm just the messenger. Crayon, get to the point. I didn't do it. I didn't see who did it. Don't take it. Get to the point, because he hasn't said what he's there for. Out with it. Somebody buried the body. Then ran off. Sprinkled some dust. Gone. Gave it proper rights. 280. What? And then notice the next line. What man alive would dare? Now, is he using man, English translator, using man in the generic sense? What person alive? I don't know the original Greek, but I don't think so. I think the original Greek means male person, because that's the only way Crayon thinks. Only a male person would do this. Why? Women have no power. They have no agency. Okay? Sentry, I don't know. I swear, no mark of a spade, no pickaxe, no earth turned up. The ground is hard packed and dry, etc. It's just, sun up, the first watch showed up, and there's the body with dust sprinkled over it. What came next? We'd have come to blows, each man for himself. Why? Because we were trying to decide who's going to come tell Crayon. So, he says, I got chosen. And the leader of the chorus, my king, ever since he began, this line 315, I've been debating in my mind, could this possibly be the work of the gods? No witnesses, no mark of a spade, the body's laying where it was, there's nothing that indicates the ground has been disturbed so dirt can be dug up to put on it. Maybe the gods did it. It's a rational explanation if you believe in the reality of the gods. Stop. Before you make me choke with it. The gods? You're senile. You must be insane. What? You say the gods could have the slightest concern for that corpse? And he goes into why he thinks the gods would not. Was it for the meritorious service They proceeded to bury him, prized him so. What meritorious service? How did Polynices die? Attacking Thebes, attempting to destroy Thebes and the altars to the gods. The hero who came to burn their temples, etc., inconceivable. He says, no, there were certain citizens who could hardly stand the spirit of my regime, grumbling against me in the dark, heads together. How long has he been king? Not long. And bear in mind, all the action of this play occurs within 24 hours, occurs in one location, and has one main plot. Okay? So what's he saying? How does he know there were certain people grumbling against him? Tossing wildly, never keeping their necks beneath the yoke, loyally submitting to their king. Well, loyally submitting and having a yoke put on you, those are two different things. See, if you were loyally submitting, you wouldn't need a yoke tying me to the person on the other part of the yoke. No. These are the instigators, I am convinced. They perverted my own. That's it. You guys were bought off. Because keep in mind, the sentry's still there. What had Creon just done? That Oedipus did in the first one. He jumped to a wild conclusion. He says, no, money, everyone, the whole crew, all of you guards, you were bought off. You, I swear to Zeus, as I still believe in Zeus, if you don't find the man who buried that corpse, what? You're going to be the one to pay. In other words, this person will be the scapegoat. Okay? Sentry, can I say something just before I go? Everything you say offends me. Where does it hurt you? In the ears or in the heart? What? The words that he brought. Somebody buried Polynices. How does this offend you? Up here or in here? The culprit, the sentry says, 361. The culprit grates on your feelings. I just annoy your ears. That is, the person who actually did the burying, that's the person who troubles you in here. You just don't like hearing what I say. I didn't do this. Yes, you did. You squandered your life for silver. Sentry 366. It's terrible when the one who does the judging judges things all wrong. Okay, now that maybe is an offense that could be punished. Because what has he just said to the king? You're wrong. Kings don't like to be told they're wrong. Kings throughout history have killed people for being told they're wrong. Oh, so now you must be clever about your judgments. If you fail to produce the criminals for me, you'll swear your dirty money brought you pain. Okay? Creon goes in, and the sentry says, I hope he's found. Best thing by far. But caught or not, that's in the lap of fortune. Fortune will determine whether or not the murderer or the barrier is caught. Sentry says, I'm not coming back. I'm not going to be the one to bring bad news. And he leaves. So the chorus gets a long speech. Numberless wonders, terrible wonders walk the world, but none the match for man. In other words, what a wonderful thing humanity is. We can solve all kinds of problems. We can do great things, blah, 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 blah. Okay? Talking about capturing birds, training animals. We have speech and thought, line 395 and following. Okay? 406, man the master, ingenious past all measure, past all dreams, the skills within his grasp, he forges on now to destruction, now again to greatness. Notice, humanity can do what? Or man can do what? Great, wonderful things. You know, the Sistine Chapel, the pyramids of Giza, all that kind of stuff. And horrible things. World War II. When he weaves in the laws of the land and the justice of the gods that binds his oaths together, he and his city rise high. So when a ruler takes together and works together the laws of the gods and the laws of the city, what does that do? The city grows. I don't mean grows exponentially. The city rises. It becomes better. It improves. All right? But the city casts out that man who weds himself to inhumanity thanks to reckless daring. Reckless. What does that mean? Literally. Thoughtless. Thoughtless daring. Never share my hearth, never think my thoughts. Whoever does such things, that is, reckless daring. Who's the chorus talking about? Is it talking about Creon? Daring the gods with his laws that go against the gods? Or is it talking about Antigone going against Creon's laws? Antigone comes in with the sentry. Here is a dark sign from the gods. In other words, here's a puzzle. I know her. That's Antigone, wretched child of a wretched father. But she's like she's handcuffed. Did you break the king's laws? She's the one. She did it. We caught her. Creon comes back out. He says, I'm in time for what? Here she is, the sentry says. 440. Take her, question her, cross-examine her, set me free. Creon. Her? You took her where? Doing what? Creon comes across as not a very bright bulb, right? The sentry is pretty clear. Burying the man. Wait. You tell me the truth? She's the one. With my own eyes, I saw her. Bury the body. Just what you forbidden. There. Is that plain and clear? Is that good enough? What did you see? He just told them. Okay? So, sentry gives a long speech. He says the dust storm came up, and when it passed, we caught her. Standing over the body, pouring out the dirt and the libations. He turns on Antigone. Creon does. You, with your eyes fixed on the ground, speak up. Why are her eyes? So she's looking at the ground while all this is going on. Do you deny you did this, yes or no? I did it. I don't deny a thing. Get out, he says to the sentry. Tell me briefly, no long speeches, were you aware a decree had forbidden this? What is he giving her the opportunity to do? He's just giving a doorway to her. All she has to do is walk through it. What does she need to say? A decree for... No, I didn't know about that. You mean I wasn't supposed to bury my... I'm sorry. He gives her the out. Okay? Well aware. So she slams that door shut. How could I avoid it? It was public. You still have the gall to break this law? Of course I did. Notice the ease with which she admits it. Yes, it wasn't Zeus who made this proclamation. What does she mean when she says that? You got that look on your face.
Like, I would know that's kind of, she's basically like, you don't really have the power Zeus does. Like, straight to his face. After he thinks that he has all the power, that's not the right thing to say.
And what is she really saying to him? Who the hell do you think you are? You're not Zeus. By saying that, she is suggesting Creon has or is full of hubris, that kind of pride that I talked about, that borders on thinking that one is godlike. Okay? She says, it wasn't Zeus, not in the least, who made this proclamation, not to me, nor did that justice dwelling with the gods beneath the earth ordain such laws for men. So you've got the gods out there, but you know there are also gods under the earth? The gods that are under the earth, the Furies. These were women, and it's not really accurate to call them gods. They're they're a different kind of being than the gods. They are godlike, okay? These were these female type creatures. They were female, but they had the heads of birds, hands with claws, and what they did is when someone was wrongly killed, or when a son killed a parent, or a daughter killed a parent, or killed a sibling, etc., it was their job to pursue that individual to death. Okay? When I mentioned the play by Aeschylus, Agamemnon, a week or whatever it was, and how Agamemnon was killed by his wife and her lover, his nephew, the next play in the series, because that's the first play, the son exacts vengeance against his mother that leads to her death. Essentially kills her. Son and daughter. Okay? The third play is about the Furies going after the son and daughter, Orestes and Electra, and hounding them. Okay? Seemingly attempting to their death. They don't die because Apollo intervened, because it was Apollo who put the son, Orestes, up to killing his mother. He said, you got to do this. It's the right thing to do, essentially. Okay? So she's talking about these, the gods below the earth. She might also be talking about, so this is one possibility. Let me put it that way. Not definitive. She might also be talking about Persephone and Hades, the gods of the underworld. Those two gods. Okay? Hades, the brother of Zeus. You know, Zeus, Hades, and Poseidon. Three brothers. Zeus is the most powerful of the three. So, that's the only reason why he rules. Might makes right. So, she says, nor did that justice, dwelling with the gods beneath the earth, ordain such laws for men, nor did I think your edict had such force, that you, a mere mortal, could override the gods. And there's the phrase that I've referred to previously in class. The great, unwritten, unshakable traditions. These are beliefs that Greek culture had that are not written down. What are those? What is one of those great, unwritten, unshakable traditions? You bury the dead, even your enemy dead. My wife and I watched over the last several weeks, I've seen it before, Band of Brothers about World War II in Europe. And then the Pacific, about the war in the Pacific. I had an uncle who was on the invasion force of Okinawa. And one of the things that you see in the Pacific, and it takes liberties with a lot of the truth and such, based primarily on the memoirs of three particular soldiers, is, there's this mentality of, American soldiers, they're not going to do blah, blah. But you got guys pulling gold out of dead Japanese soldiers' mouths. And sometimes out of undead Japanese soldiers' mouths. I mean, sticking their, can't remember the name of the Marine knife, in their mouths while they're still alive to pull out the teeth that have gold caps. Okay? No, you don't do that. And even when they're dead, you don't do that. Why? That's desecrating the body. And ancient Greece held that the body was sacred also. They are alive. Who? Who's the they? The great unshakable traditions and the gods, which are the source of those. Not just today or yesterday, she says. They live forever from the first of time, and no one knows when they first saw the light. That is, when these traditions were first given to us. Because the implication is they came from the gods. That the gods said, don't kill your mother. Don't sleep with your mother. Don't kill your father. Don't sleep with your father. Stories throughout Greek myth and literature of all these things happening. Don't kill your sister. Don't sleep with your sister. Don't kill your brother. Don't sleep with your brother. kind of a thing. You've got families cooking up. Agamemnon's family, his great-great-grandfather, cooked up his brother's children, killed them, cooked them up in a meal, and fed them to his brother. And his brother issued a curse, and it's that curse that goes all the way down to Agamemnon's family. So she says, 509, these laws, I was not about to break them, not out of fear of some man's wounded pride. Ooh. I was not about to break them, not out of fear of some man's wounded pride. What has she just said about crayon? What's the basis for this law? You're wounded. Go ahead. His ego. And face the retribution of the gods. She says, if I obeyed your laws, then I have to face the gods. If you believe in the gods, and you have these two options, suffer now, die, or suffer eternally. I mentioned in here before when I talked about Albert Camus and his little story on the myth of Sisyphus. Anybody remember what that myth of Sisyphus is?
Yeah, he's destined to push a rock to the top of the hill, but it'll always fall before he can make it.
He is fated for all eternity because he pissed off the gods. To push a rock all the way up a hill only to get it almost to the top and on the level, and the rock rolls back down. Another guy named Tantalus is damned for all eternity to be in a river. The water raises up, he rises up, and there is a tree overhanging the river with low-hanging fruit. And he can get almost to reach that fruit. And the water level goes down and he drops. He's dying of hunger for all eternity. Another guy is having, Prometheus, if I remember correctly, is having his liver torn out. Why? Because he stole fire from the gods. And it grows back. And then a giant eagle comes and tears it out again. And it grows back. The implication is what? The gods aren't merciful. Okay? You piss off the gods, they're going to exact their vengeance. So she says, die I must. I've known it all my life. How could I keep from knowing? Why? We all die. Everybody dies. When we're younger, you guys age, I'm not saying this about any of you necessarily. Generally, when we're younger, we have this feeling of invincibility. My son goes out, does things in his car. He bought himself a really nice car that I would never buy. And, he's playing Russian roulette. And I warn him, you're going to get nailed sometime. That's what she's talking about. We all die. Even without your death sentence ringing in my ears. So what's her point? And if I am to die before my time, I consider that a gain. Why? Who on earth, alive in the midst of so much grief as I, could fail to find his death a rich reward? What is she saying life is for her? Pain. Every day. It's just a pain. Look at her family history. She goes somewhere. That's Antigone. Her father was Oedipus, who's also her brother. Ew. She says, if I could die tomorrow without committing suicide, because the gods didn't allow suicide, okay? It would be good to be able to die. So she says, so for me at least, to meet this doom of yours is precious little pain. It's like, hey man, you're easing my pain. But if I had allowed my own mother's son to rot, an unburied corpse, that would have been agony. No, this is nothing. And if my present actions strike you as foolish, let's just say I've been accused of folly by a fool. So every little speech she gives, what does she do? She just heaps those rocks onto the balance that says, she's got to die, or onto the scale. Leader, notice, like father, like daughter, passionate, wild. Passionate and wild mean uncontrollable, impulsive, rash. She doesn't think before she speaks. She hasn't learned to bend before adversity. What does the leader mean? Bend before adversity. I don't know if they'd been written by this time, but there's an old Greek writer, character, I don't know that he was actually real or not, named Aesop. You might have heard Aesop's fables growing up or in school. We did back in the 60s. Read a ton of them. Okay? One of those fables is about the wind and what stands against the wind. And the fable is there is a reed, like a reed of stalk of wheat. And the wind comes, and what happens? The stalk bends, and when the wind goes away, the stalk stands up. Another wind comes, and it's like one of these oaks out here, or one of the walnuts in the grove. And a big enough wind comes, and boom, it goes down. Why? Because it doesn't bend with the wind. It just breaks. What's the point? And I think it is a Sophoclean point for the audience. What must we learn to do? Bend with adversity. Does that mean give in? No. It means you have to learn to do what? To take what life throws at you. And when it knocks you down, you get back up. You dust yourself off, you take another step. You take another punch, you get knocked down, you get back up. You take another step. Crayon. No, that is, no, she hasn't learned to bend before adversity. Believe me, the stiffest, stubborn wills fall the hardest. That's dramatic irony. Okay? Why? Because we're going to see Crayon is a lot more stiff and stubborn than Antigone. I'm going to ask the question. Who's the protagonist in this play? Okay. The toughest iron, tempered strong in the white-hot fire, you'll see it crack and shatter first of all. I've known spirited horses you can break with a light bit, proud, rebellious. No room for pride, not in a slave. The girl was an old hand at insolence when she overrode the edicts we made public. Old hand. That means she's well accustomed to being, insolent, to standing up against authority. But once she had done it, to insolence twice over, to glory in it, laughing, mocking us to our face what she'd done. See, it's not only the burying of Polynices that bothers Crayon. That was bad enough. What was doubly bad, what was even worse than the burial, was doing what? Saying it to my face, mocking me. And then listen to what he says. I am not the man, not now. She is the man, if this victory goes to her and she goes free. I find those lines totally mind-blowing, coming from 5th century BC Greece, where again, women had no power, no authority, no rights. In Crayon, Sophocles is putting in the mouth of Crayon, he's bringing up this kind of inequality. He's saying, I will be emasculated, I will be castrated if I give in to her. She will be the man. She will be the one in charge. She will be the one in control. If she goes free. Never. Sister's child are closer in blood than all my family clustered at my altar. No, she'll never escape. And then he imps it up. She and her sister. Where have we heard anything about Ismene? In all of this, since Antigone was caught. Hasn't been mentioned. So why does he assume Ismene is involved? Because like Oedipus, like Antigone, he's rash. He jumps to conclusions. Rashness seems to be an overarching theme in all of Sophocles. Because what does it mean? It means not thinking about the situation, but simply reacting. That's it. What did Oedipus say when Creon said, "What do you want from me? You want me banished?" He said, "No, I want you dead." And then he goes on and essentially says, "When I know someone is plotting against me, what do I have to do? I have to attack first." That, what he really means by that is, I don't think, I just react. And then what? It's the shoot first, ask questions later mentality. Okay? He says, "I accuse her sister of this." Antigone, what do you want? What more do you want than my arrest and execution? Line 555. He said, "I don't want anything more than that. I have it all if you do that." Then why delay? What does she mean by why delay? Then shut the hell up and get to it. She's challenging him. Come on, do it right now. It's like if he had a pistol in his hand, she would grab hold of the barrel and put it to her mouth. Go ahead, pull the trigger. Your moralizing repels me. In other words, your telling sermons is disgusting. Every word you say, pray God it always will. So naturally, all I say repels you too. Notice she's saying they're like magnetic poles. They don't attract. They're the opposites. Whatever you say disgusts me, so therefore logically whatever I say disgusts you. Enough. Give me glory. How can he give her glory? According to her thinking. Kill me. Why? Because then she will have died for her brother. Well, that's a noble act. What greater glory could I win than to give my own brother decent burial? These citizens would all agree, and she points out to the chorus, and I kind of think the chorus immediately turns around and starts looking at other things. They don't want to be singled out. They would praise me too if their lips weren't locked in fear. Cowards. It's almost like she's saying, lucky tyrants. It's the first time the use of that term in either of these two plays. Lucky tyrants, the perquisites of power. Where does that idea of the perquisites, the perks of power, first come up? Back in Oedipus the King. When Creon tries to explain to Oedipus, why would I want your job? I get all the perks now, with none of the responsibilities. Now she's saying, now you have all the perks. You can do what you want. Yeah, you can kill me. Go ahead. Ruthless power to do and say whatever pleases them. That is, the tyrants. Not the people and not the gods. You alone of all people in Thebes see things that way. You're the only one who thinks that. She goes, They see it that way, but they keep silent. Why? Because they keep their tongues in leash. And you should do the same. Aren't you ashamed to differ so from them, so disloyal? Not ashamed, not to honor my brother, my own flesh and blood. Notice, Creon thinks he has an in there. She's honoring her flesh and blood. What about Eteocles? What about him, Antigone? Polynices killed your brother. Okay, he's the other brother. She says, brother, yes, by the same mother, the same father. How can you render his enemy such honors? How can you render the enemy of Eteocles Dionysius, such honors. They died enemies. She says, he will never testify that. He who? Eteocles. Eteocles dead and buried. She means down with the dead. Eteocles, in Antigone's thinking, would not go up to his brother and go, you dirty, rotten son of a incestuous. They're dead now. What does that mean with all the stuff up here? It's irrelevant. In the dead, in the houses of the dead, in Hades, what? Everyone's equal. You don't have kings and queens anymore. You have people who were kings and queens. Crayon, he will, if you honor the traitor just as much as him. But is his brother not some slave, ravaging our country? Eteocles died fighting on our behalf. No matter, death longs for the same rights for all. And she's speaking of death personified, like a goddess or god. Never, not for the traitor. Same as patriot. So she asked, Crayon, who on earth can say the ones below don't find this pure and uncorrupt? That is, this action of mine. Who up here can say that those below don't approve of what I've done? Never. Notice he doesn't answer. He's still thinking, you can't equate a traitor and a patriot. Once an enemy, never a friend, not even after death. I was born to join in love, not hate. That is my nature. To join, to bring together in love, not hate. Notice what your footnote says. She's incapable of taking sides in her brother's political hatred for each other, but shares in the blood relationship which she believes unites them in love in the world below. In other words, down below, when you're dead, let's use another kind of historical metaphor. You're not a United States citizen or a Soviet Russian during the Cold War. Or you're not an Allied warrior and an Axis warrior. You're not an American soldier and a German soldier. When you're dead. When you're dead, you're just what? Dead people. Why? Because there is no United States down there. There's no Germany down there. Her point is, there's no Thebes down there. Okay? Crayon. When she says that, Crayon says, go down below and love. If love you must. Love the dead. While I'm alive, no woman is going to lord it over me. What's it really ultimately coming down to for him? She's challenging his masculinity, which tied into his authority. Ismene comes in under guard. Okay? And he says, you! I protected you. I helped you. I nursed and, all that kind of stuff. Did you help? I did it. Yes. If only she consents. I share the guilt. Antigone, no. Why? Why does Antigone not want Ismene now to claim credit? No. Justice will never suffer that. Justice. It's not right. Why? Because Ismene's lying. But it's a little bit more than that. You were unwilling. I'm ashamed to say that, yes, I didn't. Who did the work? Let the dead and the God of death bear witness. I have no love for a friend who loves in words alone. Antigone is saying, I showed my love for my brother. How? With actions. Ismene's like, don't reject me. Let me have some help. Never share my dying, line 615. Don't lay claim to what you never touch. My death will be enough. What did she mean her death will be enough? Enough what? Just like Yocasta said her suffering will be enough. She's saying, my death will be enough. You go on living. Okay. So they go back and forth. I'm going to skip a bunch. 627 or 628. No, 626. Antigone says, you chose to live, I chose to die. By choosing not to help bury your brother, as many chose life. By choosing to bury her brother, she says, I knew I was going to die. And then Antigone says, skipping 2 lines, your wisdom appealed to one world, this world, the temporary world, mine another. And that could be either the world of the dead, which is forever, or the world of the gods, which is forever. Okay? I gave myself to death, Antigone says, long ago, so I might serve the dead. And that implies before our brothers died. All right? Creon, they're both mad. In other words, they both talk like crazy people. One, just shown it. The other's been that way since she was born. Which is which? Which one has just shown her madness? Which one's been crazy, mad, since she was born? I think as many as the one who's just shown her madness. Why? Because she now wants to claim credit for something she didn't do. And he's saying, Antigone, she's been loony from the day she first took breath. Okay? So, Ismene, line 645, and we'll stop with this, brings up Creon's son, Haman. Dearest Haman, your father wrongs you so. He says, don't you talk about marriage. You're going to rob your son of Antigone? Now, there's some interesting additional information we didn't know. Antigone was going to marry the son of her, what? Great uncle / brother-in-law? Okay. Yes, Creon says, death will do it for me. Death will break off their marriage. So it's settled then? The leader asks. Antigone must die? Yes, we both know that. And he tells the guards, take them in. From now on, they'll act like women. Meaning, they'll shut up and they'll be submissive. Tie them up, no more running loose. Even the bravest will cut and run. Okay? So they're let off, and the chorus comes in. And we will pick up on Thursday with the chorus, and we'll probably finish this. Yeah, I won't put a quiz up until we finish this. All right, have a good day.